Johnny Carson has long been remembered as the embodiment of calm confidence, effortless charm, and an almost untouchable presence in the world of television. To millions of viewers, he appeared polished, composed, and in complete control of every moment that unfolded on screen. However, those who knew him on a more personal level often painted a very different picture. According to accounts from his inner circle, the man behind the desk was far more complex than the image he projected. His second wife once compared life with him to living with a tiger, suggesting a constant underlying tension that could surface without warning. His third wife went even further, admitting that there were times when she felt genuinely frightened. Carson himself did not entirely hide this duality. During a national television appearance, accompanied by music, he openly acknowledged that alcohol had the ability to transform him into someone unrecognizable, someone far removed from the composed figure audiences admired. Behind the scenes of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, Carson reportedly kept a private and carefully guarded list of individuals who were never invited back. This was not a casual or symbolic list. It represented real decisions that could affect careers and reputations. Some names were added due to perceived disrespect, others because of personal betrayal. And in at least one case, the reasoning remains a complete mystery. One woman was banned from a show, and to this day, she has refused to explain why. These decisions hinted at a side of Carson that viewers never saw. A man who could hold grudges, enforce strict personal standards, and quietly shape the landscape of late-night television from behind the curtain. What happened off-camera often revealed a far more complicated personality than the smooth, controlled host audiences saw each night. A defining moment early in his career came on May 15, 1963, when Carson took the show to Hollywood for the first time. The move marked a 2-week trip that was expected to be a major success. The guest lineup that evening seemed almost too perfect, featuring Marlon Brando, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Howard Duff, Ida Lupino, and Alan Sherman. It was the kind of lineup that should have guaranteed success without effort. Yet instead of unfolding smoothly, the evening became one of the most talked-about clashes in Carson's early years. Journalist Mark Malkoff later described the tension in his 2025 book Love, Johnny Carson, which was based on more than 400 interviews. According to his account, the atmosphere in the studio seemed to tighten gradually, as if everyone present could feel something going wrong in real time. Brando arrived appearing visibly intoxicated, entering with a presence underscored by music, and took his seat beside Gabor. She, in contrast, was energetic and enthusiastic, clearly focused on promoting her latest venture, a face cream. At first, the interaction seemed lighthearted. Brando even complimented her, calling her fascinating and charming, playing along with her energy. However, the tone quickly began to shift. Gabor repeatedly interrupted him, steering every conversation back toward her product. No matter what Carson asked or what Brando attempted to discuss, the focus returned to her promotion. Initially, this might have seemed amusing or even endearing, but over time it began to feel overwhelming, as though she was taking control of the entire segment. The tension escalated when Brando attempted humor with a weak knock-knock joke. The audience responded with polite applause, more out of respect for him than genuine amusement. That was the moment when Gabor delivered a sharp remark, pointing out that only someone like Marlon Brando would receive applause for such a joke. Her comment struck directly at his pride. Brando's patience snapped, and he fired back, asking whether they were going to sit there all night listening to her crappy plugs. The mood shifted instantly. Carson found himself caught between two powerful personalities, both accustomed to commanding attention and neither willing to back down. From that point forward, the exchange deteriorated quickly. Accounts describe insults flying in rapid succession, creating an atmosphere that was both tense and chaotic. One version of events even claims that Brando leaned toward Carson and muttered something obscene about Gabor. Whether or not that detail is accurate, the overall tension was undeniable. Eventually, Gabor stood up and stormed off the set, while Brando remained seated, wearing a subtle, almost satisfied smile, as though he had no intention of moving. The segment effectively collapsed under the weight of the confrontation. Despite the chaos of that night, Gabor was never banned from the show. In fact, she continued to appear regularly throughout the 1960s, with appearances on April 15, 1963, October 6, 1964, May 6, 1965, June 25, 1965, February 24, 1966, and May 19, 1967. This detail reveals something important about Carson's approach. While he could be irritated or even frustrated, he also recognized when a guest brought energy and excitement to the show. Gabor, with her 9 marriages, her habit of calling everyone darling, and her relentless self-promotion, embodied a form of celebrity that audiences found both captivating and exhausting. Carson understood that even at her most overwhelming, she could still make the room come alive. Over time, the story of Gabor's appearance became distorted, giving rise to a widely circulated myth. In this version, a glamorous actress sits with a cat and makes a suggestive remark, prompting Carson to deliver a sharp and memorable one-liner. The identity of the actress changes depending on who tells the story. Sometimes it is Gabor, other times Raquel Welch, Anne Margaret, Diane Cannon, or Farrah Fawcett. But the core of the story remains the same. Fact-checking site Snopes investigated the claim and determined it was false. Both Carson and Gabor denied it ever happened. When Jane Fonda mentioned it during a 1989 appearance, Carson reacted with visible surprise, insisting he would remember such an incident. Moreover, the show was pre-recorded, meaning any inappropriate content would have been edited out before broadcast. Despite this, the myth persisted, illustrating how easily stories can evolve beyond the truth. This same pattern of exaggeration affected perceptions of Raquel Welch. Although she had a reputation for being demanding on film sets, her appearances with Carson told a different story. She appeared multiple times between 1968 and 1988, including March 1974, 1980, and June 22, 1988. Their interactions were often described as friendly and flirtatious. During one appearance in 1968, Carson joked about her white dress, and she responded with genuine laughter. They also discussed the symbol label often attached to her, and Welch addressed it directly, rejecting the stereotype that such a label implied a lack of intelligence or ability. While some observers noted that she commanded attention during her segments, this was generally seen as a reflection of her strong presence rather than poor behavior. Her conflicts in Hollywood were well documented, involving figures like Mae West, Faye Dunaway, and Burt Reynolds. She was even fired from Cannery Row in 1980 and later sued MGM. When Barbara Walters questioned her reputation in 1985, Welch openly acknowledged being demanding, but maintained that she was worth it. Importantly, she never appeared on Carson's ban list, suggesting that her supposed rudeness on the show was largely a misconception. Among all of Carson's conflicts, his fallout with Joan Rivers stands out as the most significant. Unlike other disputes that occurred on air, this one was rooted in decisions made behind the scenes. Rivers' journey with the show began on February 17, 1965, after multiple failed auditions over 3 years. Her breakthrough came when Bill Cosby, serving as a guest host, suggested her as a replacement for a struggling performer. She appeared as a writer rather than a stand-up, but her performance impressed Carson enough for him to predict her future success. Over the next 20 years, Rivers became a regular presence, appearing around 185 times and eventually becoming Carson's protege. In August 1983, she was named the first permanent female guest host of the show. Despite their strong on-screen chemistry, their off-screen relationship remained distant. Rivers later described their interactions as polite but minimal, often ending in silence after brief exchanges. The relationship ultimately fractured in 1986 when Rivers accepted an offer from Fox to host her own late-night show. Her final appearance with Carson on April 25, 1986, appeared friendly, but everything changed after the announcement on May 6. Rivers claimed she attempted to inform Carson beforehand, but he reportedly felt blindsided. Producer Peter Loss-Sally later explained that Carson's anger was not about competition, but about the perceived lack of honesty and respect. From that point forward, Carson cut off all contact with Rivers. He never spoke to her again, even during major personal tragedies. The ban extended beyond their personal relationship, affecting her professional opportunities. Her Fox show struggled and ended quickly, and she remained banned from The Tonight Show for 28 years. She eventually returned in 2014 during Jimmy Fallon's debut, only months before her death. Other moments on the show further highlighted Carson's expectations. Madonna's 1987 appearance showcased a playful and nervous side that charmed Carson. In contrast, interviews like that of Sarah Miles became uncomfortable due to her apparent disorientation. Meanwhile, Shelley Winters created one of the show's most dramatic moments when she poured whiskey over Oliver Reed after enduring his offensive remarks. Carson also maintained strict standards regarding respect for his staff. Figures like Jerry Lewis and Steve Allen were banned for mistreating crew members. Even subtle actions such as correcting Carson on air could lead to consequences, as seen with Carl Sagan. Dishonesty was another major issue, particularly in the realm of magic. Carson reacted strongly to perceived deception by Orson Welles and famously exposed Uri Geller. In the end, Carson's life off camera revealed a far more layered personality. Born in Iowa in 1925 and raised in Nebraska, he carried a strong sense of personal values shaped by his Midwestern upbringing. While he could appear warm and approachable, he could also be rigid, guarded, and unforgiving. His struggles with alcohol and fluctuating moods stood in stark contrast to his calm television persona. As Ed McMahon once observed, Carson could feel completely at ease in front of millions, yet uncomfortable in small groups. That contrast suggests that the stage was not just where he worked, it was where he felt safest. Away from the spotlight, the warmth often faded, revealing a more complicated and at times difficult individual.